Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with OnX Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the OnX app is it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, a moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my OnX. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with OnX, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood. Sitting down here at Parlin with co-host Joe.
Hello.
And good Lee Shands.
Good morning.
And today, our special guest is Steve Sherk from, what's your town, Steve?
I'm in Bradford, Pennsylvania.
Bradford, Pennsylvania. And Steve's a guide, got a guide business over there. Big into the deer hunting over in the big woods of, well, that's Bradford's kind of north central PA, isn't it?
North central, northwest, yep, kind of right in that range.
What's that, the Allegheny Mountains over that way?
Exactly.
How'd I know that? So I had a staff sergeant that was in my unit back in the Marine Corps days in the 70s. And he was from Bradford, PA.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How big of a town is it?
I don't know. I never went there.
Jesus. Yeah, it's not big. I mean, I don't even think we have 10,000 people here. So just a small town.
Yeah. His name was Mark Singer. Craziest son of a gun you'd ever meet. He was typical. If you see any of them, if you see any movies with crazy Marines in it, well, it was Mark Singer. He did some crazy stuff.
That's awesome, though. I can't recall the person or the name, but I'm not surprised at the craziness. Small town doesn't mean you don't have any crazy people. Might be the opposite of that.
Yeah. If we had time, I'd tell you about some of the bar fights you get into. And I had to straighten him out, but Deb would be bandaging him up at night. And yeah. We don't want to go there. So anyways, you've got your own Facebook channel and all of that stuff, YouTube. You do YouTube?
Yeah, I have a partner. It's called Mountain Buck University. We mainly just do like teaching type stuff. I don't have like any recorded hunts. A lot of like scouting type stuff. it's nothing that, what do I want to say? It's not like it's a job. It's more like a hobby. We usually only film stuff like this time of year and then up through some of the spring, some of the summer. We really don't have time for much in hunting season, but most people know me through my business, especially because I do a lot through like Facebook and Instagram. That's how, most people have found who I am. And I actually don't even have a website anymore. I just go through social media, but I've done okay as far as booking hunts just by doing that.
What is it? Sherk's Guide Service or something?
Yep, on both Facebook and Instagram, it's Sherk's Guide Service.
Well, that's easy enough to find you.
Yeah, except a lot of people will look and they think it's Shrek. It's not Shrek, it's Sherk. So
Yeah.
be surprised how many people have called me Shrek or said, "Is this Shrek's Guide Service?" And, no, it's not that.
Yeah. You don't have enough green tint to be Shrek.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, you mainly, what do you do for your when you hunt with your guide service? I see you. I kind of snooping around a little bit. I told you I don't have a lot of social media experience. I mean, I go on there and monitor some of our stuff, but you said you would do a lot of hunters with bows and some rifle
Yep.
and stands and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, so we mainly focus on archery rut hunts. I only guide out of the whole entire year. I only guide about 4.5 weeks. My hunts for archery start like late October. Usually do about the last week of October and then the first 2 weeks of November. And then I do our 2 weeks of our gun season, which always starts the Saturday after Thanksgiving and then usually ends roughly first or second week of December. But yeah, even though I, hunt a similar environment, like, I don't do tracking or anything like that. Especially with my gun hunters, even though we might do stand hunting, a lot of it is just I give them designated routes to still hunt. But I get guys, especially from up your way, that are good at tracking, and I let them do it if we get snow, although snow seems so hard to come by anymore down my way. You can never count on it. But most of our, like I said, our rifle is mainly still hunting, and then all of our archery is stand hunting, which what I do is I just give them waypoints, and all hunters bring their own like mobile stand setup, and then every night they come back to the lodge, we go over what they see, and we just come up with a new game plan for the next day if needed.
Sounds good. So, you're hunting on public land there?
100% public land. I mean, hundreds of thousands of acres. People wouldn't think Pennsylvania, might be similar to Maine, or not that it really is, but it's also not a place like, we're just hunting 5,000 acre piece here. I mean, everywhere around me is just huge as far as public land. I can literally go out my back door and it's endless, public land. It's amazing. Like all the hunters that I've gotten to guide over the years, like they come here and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's literally everywhere I look, I can hunt. Like it's just a special place. Very fortunate to have been brought up, raised here, and obviously still live here. It's really all that I know, but I'm just fortunate to have all this land around me, and it's just also fortunate that I've been able to make a business out of it too.
Yeah, that's a bonus, right?
How close are you to where they reintroduced the elk? Are you close to where the elk are?
I'm only about 45 minutes to an hour away. In fact, one time we did have one of the elk come up my way. I think there was something wrong with it because it hung around for a while and then it died. But sometimes you hear them say that, they're expanding and they might get over my way. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're not real far from me. And it's a beautiful place. Like Pennsylvania, the mountains where we're at, it's not a lot of, especially where I'm at, there's no ag land or anything. It's just like big woods, beautiful remote areas. So to go just a little ways away and also get to experience that type of land, with wild elk, it's pretty special.
Yeah. How big are the mountains out there?
Biggest mountains are probably close to 2,500 feet in elevation, so probably not anything as big as what you guys are seeing in some places. They're kind of in between, somewhat steep and not real steep. I mean, it's just a lot of ridge country. Where I live, though, it's on a big, giant, like mile-wide mountain flat. I mean, 2,000 some feet elevation way on top of a mountain, but it's very wide flat up here. But there's, it's basically mountains everywhere. It's, we're right in the middle of the Allegheny Mountains. So everywhere you look, there's a valley, there's a ridge, there's a stream. It's definitely mountain country, just maybe not the biggest, but certainly not the smallest.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
So Steve, you said
I keep telling you, I want to get you here sometime.
Yeah. Yep. You got me thinking now.
you say it's public land. In Maine it's private land that everyone uses. Is it public land owned by the state typically, or?
Well, there's a variety of it. A lot of it is called National Forest, Allegheny National Forest. There's 500,000 acres of that. There's also a lot of private land similar to what you're talking about. I think it's like private land owned by like timber and oil companies. But obviously, especially your timber companies, I mean, they want hunters because deer, are one of their number one enemies. So there's thousands of acres of timber company land. There's also a lot of state game land, state forests around me. But here in Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to guide on the state game lands. So it actually makes it tricky to guide in Pennsylvania because only really where I'm at, there's not a lot of land that you're legal to guide on. It's just, just fortunately, this is where the good Lord put me, and he put it in my heart to do this. And it's just kind of the perfect place for me. However, I will say, there's been people that have tried it and didn't have much luck at it in my area. So it's definitely not a guarantee. Something I think you really got to put your heart and mind into, because I'm sure, just like you, Hal, being a guide, like especially in Maine, it's far from easy. Extremely hard up there, probably even harder than what it is here. So you're definitely not just going to say, "Yep, I'm going to be a guide and have success." And there's way more into it. But I think if you really have your heart in it, I think that's the key to having success.
There's no question. When I was teaching my guide school, I could see a lot of them were getting their guide's license or wanting to get it because they thought they could make a lot of money and be in the woods. But I would always stress to them that you have to think about the people first. If you're just thinking about you're trying to make some money at guiding, you're not going to make it,
You're absolutely right.
You have to take care of the people, do the good job for the people, and then it's probably like you don't have to advertise now, so you're doing a good job for people, see?
Steve, is there a situation?
I found, too, like, everyone's a little bit different, too. No client is the same, and you kind of got to figure out who they are as a person and who they are, especially physically in this type of terrain and environment. And, you got to help them adapt to the area and get comfortable. Like, there's so many little things that people wouldn't think of, to being a guide and how to connect with someone and make their hunt comfortable and fun and successful. Like, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Is your area a big destination area? Like up here, we have a lot of guys that come from out of state, have for years, come here just to hunt. Is it kind of similar there where you get a lot of that, or?
Yes, pretty much. It's not just for hunting. It's a big recreation area. There's rivers, there's reservoirs, lakes around us. So there's great fishing. There's all kinds of hiking trails. I mean, you name it. It's one of the premier places in this part of the country, just to go and enjoy, these type of outdoors, but especially, for hunting. Like, I've seen, not even just for me, for my guiding experience, but it's nothing to drive down the road in gun season. There's a truck from Georgia, or I mean, I've seen license plates from all over the country. So it's definitely a destination place. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like anywhere near the top. It's not like some of these other places you hear, like, especially out in the Midwest. But for someone that likes this type of hunting, the big woods, mountain bucks, it's definitely a spot I think a lot of hunters are wanting to check out.
What about motorized access? Do you have to deal with four-wheelers and all that? Are those allowed there, or?
Nope, it's legal at all. So just a lot of people hate that. I've actually had clients or potential clients, once I tell them, you can't use ATVs or anything like that, they're like, well, it's not for me. So there's a lot of walking involved. Some people are using e-bikes, but yet there's restrictions on them. They can only have certain motors and things like that. I don't even know the exact, qualifications for that. But, if you're not willing to put boots on the ground here, you're probably going to struggle, to be honest with you.
What about the last guy we had on the podcast was complaining about age class in his area? They're not shooting old bucks like they used to because there was too much access, and they're just killing smaller and younger bucks. Is the area that you're in, is it big enough and remote enough? Are you still killing a good age class of buck?
Oh, absolutely. Like one guy got like a 10-year-old this year.
Wow.
The thing with us, though, and to each his own, but like I don't have size minimums. In my opinion, in the way what I believe hunting, I believe age class and trophy. Like I think that's more of a personal thing. I just want someone to come here and have a good time. I also understand that there's people out there that they don't have the time to really put in to hunt trophy deer. And if a guy sees a nice 2 or 3 year old and this is his only week or 3 days he gets to hunt all year, then I mean, by all means, if you want to shoot that deer and bring it home to your family and enjoy the meat, I think you should be able to do that. I do try to think I advertise more that, that we have big deer here. And I try to persuade people a little bit. Maybe you do want to hold out, especially if you're on a 6-day hunt. But other than that, we're very fortunate to have a good age class. There's a lot of deer, though, that are 4, 5, 6 years old that might only be 100, 110-inch deer. I think in the big woods that we have, not every buck of higher age class really holds a giant set of antlers. I don't think in the big woods you always get that proper nutrition. I mean, you guys especially deal with bad winters. But just killing a 4, 5, 6-year-old deer here, I don't care how big his antlers are, it's a very rewarding experience, something that every hunter should find a lot of pride and success into a certain way. So we definitely have the right area, the right situation, the right amount of land where the age class is definitely here.
How about the population? A pretty high population? Or, I mean, I don't know if you got anything to compare it to.
15 to 20 deer per square mile. But there's areas where there's less too. I will say it does seem like the areas where there's less deer per square mile, I think there's bigger bucks in those areas. At least that's what I think. Seems like there's areas that are just like real nasty, real rugged. Like always seems to be a lot more bigger deer in those areas, but yet there might only be a handful of deer there. But you go to other spots and there's deer everywhere. There may only be one good deer in that area. So it varies depending on where you're at here. But overall, I mean, it's not like what we used to have. 30 years ago, before I was even old enough to hunt, I would tag along with my dad in gun season, and we would average 40, 50 deer a day is what we would see, mainly in gun season. But I will say, most of the time, 40 or 50 deer sightings, you would not see one buck, and you might see a spike or a forkhorn, and you're going to shoot that deer. At least that was the mindset back then, because like we didn't have the age class of bucks that we do have now. It wasn't until Pennsylvania created the antler restrictions and some other management programs that really had a big impact and changed things around for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. So that obviously is something that you like and are in favor of? Because I remember back years ago when that was first implemented, it was pretty contentious.
Yes, and I can touch on that a little bit more. You know, the antler restriction definitely helped, but for a variety of reasons. Yeah, obviously, number one, we're passing deer up. It's got to have 3 points on one side here, but really that doesn't have a huge impact on making big bucks. Where I think it really had an effect was it pushed a lot of hunters away. There was a lot of people that were like, you know, if it was brown, it's down, or if I saw horns, I was shooting. They didn't want to have to change their ways. So, you know, there's less hunters now than what there's ever been, which is obviously when you have less pressure, you're going to have, you know, you're going to give bucks more chance to survive. Also, another thing about it that I find, especially in gun season, is like it's not as easy as what you think to always count 3 points on one side. You know, that deer is running, there's a little bit of brush in the way, you see an antler, but you can't tell for sure if there's 3. Like there's a lot of times, especially me or a client, like I had a big rack, but I couldn't quite tell for sure if I had 3 on one side, so then I had to let it go. Like there's other reasons to that antler restriction, you know, making for bigger bucks and just passing them up because they didn't have 3 on one side. Like basically you're only passing up spikes and forkhorns. So you're really only letting deer get to that, you know, second year of age. But it definitely is, like I said, it's been unbelievable. It didn't take long at all. I would say within 3 years, I already saw a massive change and, you know, to the type of deer that we were seeing. And also like another thing is it's changed everyone. Once we knew what we had and everyone using trail cameras now, like more people are more about shooting older age class bucks and bigger bucks because we know what's out there. You'd rather hold out because you just, you know your chances to kill a bigger deer now are way better than what they used to be.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you got 15 to 20 deer per square mile, I call that high because we don't have that northern Maine. Southern Maine has that and then more, but up here we don't have anywhere near that. Now, there might be some isolated spots where there might be 10 or 15 a square mile in some spots, but when they average out the whole North Maine woods, I think they figure it's about 4, you know. But
Wow.
Our area here is more than that. And it's got better and better for a number of reasons. I think, you know, we've been killing a lot of the coyotes, and we've had some fairly easy winters. But up here it rotates around. I think I was telling you that we can have a herd build up here, and then one winter they're half gone. So we have the people talk about there's a group in Maine there. They're always talking about antler restrictions. They want to get antler restrictions, and I'm not opposed to it in some areas, but in Maine we couldn't it wouldn't be right to make a blanket law about antler restrictions because you wouldn't have anybody wouldn't come up northern Maine either, because even tracking, I mean, half the time you don't know what it's got for antlers. You know you're on a big old track and you see them take off through the brush. Well, you know that's the buck, but we don't care what it's got for antlers. It might be 6 points. It might be 4. There's a lot of them big old bucks got great big crotch horns on them or something, you know.
Just like what I mentioned. I totally agree.
And the other side of that is there's a lot of people that just want the meat, and how are you going to hold it against them for just wanting to shoot a spike and put some meat in the freezer, you know?
Well,
which now has changed. We have a lot more
people out. They were like, well, if I can't shoot a spike or, you know, a 1.5-year-old buck per se, then I'm, you know, they were just somewhat stubborn and quit. But then again, it's easy to get a doe tag here too.
Right.
But yeah, in some ways I feel bad about that too, but maybe I'm slightly selfish because like I'm more of a bigger buck hunter, and I'd rather have more big bucks like we have now than the way it used to be.
Well, yeah, because and you can down there, because you don't have the winters, you're not losing any big bucks of the winter. Here we can lose them when all deer, like I said, we could lose half of them in one winter. So
I would totally agree.
yeah, so hunting really in northern Maine, hunting doesn't really have any effect on the deer population, you know what I mean? Like here in town in Jackman, and they're probably tagging deer from, well, to the Canadian border, probably 20 miles either side. Maybe they're tagging deer from 20 miles all the way around town, and they tagged, last fall was 200 deer. I think there was probably 150 bucks and 50 does or something close to that. So you think, well, that's really not a lot of deer for all those miles, right?
Absolutely.
So following you a little bit, Steve, I think maybe it was last spring. You do quite a bit of trail camera work. You do a lot of your scouting with trail cameras.
A lot of people, if I didn't cut you off too fast, a lot of people associate me more with trail cameras than anything else. It's a vital tool to my arsenal, I would say. We usually run about 150 to 200 cameras, and that's over a pretty wide, expansive area. Definitely over a 30 mile by like 10, 15 mile wide stretch is what we're mainly focused on. So might sound like a lot, but in that much ground, I mean, still wouldn't even cover enough if you really wanted to know exactly what's everywhere. But especially for the guiding, especially for the archery stuff, they help out a lot. I learn a lot about deer movement, deer habits through using them. I collect data. I do studies at the end of every season based on, weather, temperature, hunting pressure. I mean, all kinds of different factors. So they've really, if one thing has taught me a lot about hunting, it's probably the amount of trail cameras I run and the amount of information I collect from using them.
Sounds like a full-time job to me.
It is.
I'm getting tired thinking about it.
It's crazy. There's hardly ever a day of the year when I'm not checking a camera or two, just for the fact, like, you got to keep up with the batteries, or, some of them are so far back in, you got to at least go in maybe every 4 or 5 months, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes it gets stolen. Sometimes bears cause problems. So it's, like you said, it's a job in itself, but I mean, I love everything about it. So it's really more of a hobby than anything else.
So are you, I'm sure you didn't start out that way because they didn't have them when you started, but with the cell cams, are you running many cell cams? Do you have the service to do that?
A little bit. I ran about 20 cell cams this past season. They, I like cell cameras. I'm not against them. I think they're, in my opinion, a little bit overrated, though, just because, like, you get a picture of a big buck now in the big woods. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're too late. Like, if you're going to use cell cameras, you have to kind of sit back a little bit more, be a little more patient with what you're seeing on them. And, it's a lot different if all of a sudden you realize you got a hot doe in that area. Then, okay, that would be a situation where you make a move. But I don't really need cell cameras to have success, with the whole trail camera, strategy that I do use. And it's also tough too, because a lot of my cell cameras aren't in my best spots, just because a lot of my best spots, there's not enough cell reception.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking more just in terms of not having to go into that piece of woods and check them all the time, more for convenience rather than hunting the camera. But
and that is the number one reason why I like cell cameras, is the fact that I don't have to go in there and potentially put my scent down, spook deer, just keep it undisturbed. However, I will say there's also disadvantages to that, because a lot of times we think, oh, that cell camera, it hasn't been taking any pictures and must be no deer in the area, and then it might just not be in the right spot. I mean, there could be deer moving all around it, and you don't really, that cell camera is only covering, a small portion of the area. So that's what I've definitely learned about trail cameras always is like, I never base the full hunt and the full, game plan off just what I'm seeing on that camera. I mean, you've got to go through those areas, do your own boots on the ground scouting, and make those decisions based more on yourself than the cameras. But the cameras are just an added tool. Like, obviously take whatever that camera's telling you, but I guess my main point is like, if my camera's not showing me much, I'm still I'm far from crossing that area off. In fact, I'm probably going to go in there and scout a little more heavily and try to figure out what's going on there.
Hey, Hal here. Just wanted to tell you we're excited about our partnership with Minus 33. Minus 33 specializes in merino wool base layers for outdoor enthusiasts, from tops and bottoms to hats, socks, gloves. And our gear is going to keep you warm and comfortable no matter what adventure you're on, especially those big woods ones. We're a fifth-generation family, owned and operated, a New Hampshire woolen textile manufacturer. They have over 106 years of woolen expertise, and they started manufacturing woolen socks, the Mountain Heritage ones, in New Hampshire in 2018, with the idea that a quality product, affordable pricing, and can be worn and loved from season to season, no matter what your experience level or skill is, so no one should feel uncomfortable or ill-prepared in the outdoor community. Having a reliable gear is one of the first steps towards a lifetime of passion or whatever activity it is. And my caveat to that is you got to wear your woolies. Cotton is death.
Hey folks, Rick Libby here from Big Woods Bucks. I'm here today to tell you about our new packs. This is our new small pack, which the first time I saw it, Chris showed it to me and I said, that's the nooner, because that's the perfect pack if I'm getting on a buck track at noon. And it'll hold the sandwich, your water, a little bit of gear. It's virgin wool, made in USA, waterproof resistant, has a liner on the inside. It's a great pack. This pack, this is our newest large pack, which when I used to carry the older pack, I always wore suspenders because it bothered my hips a little bit. So we designed one with shoulder straps, and this is a great pack. It takes the weight off your hips, puts it onto your shoulders. It's got a GPS pouch right here in the top you slide in. Same deal, it's water resistant on the inside, got that liner. It's a perfect pack. So I go to bigwoodsbucks.com, get yours today, and I'll see you on the track.
As you all know, Big Woods Bucks is devoted to promoting the best equipment for tracking and still hunting the big woods. Part of that equation for success is the sights that sit on your hunting rifle. We've chosen Skinner Sights as the company to produce our custom-built BWB Tracker Series peep sight. It's constructed of solid steel, has our custom ghost ring, and was co-developed by some of the best trackers in the world. To get yours, go to bigwoodsbucks.com and click on the optics tab.
What's the main sign, or like how do you determine, like in southern Maine, guys put their trail cameras like in pinch points, or if they're near farm country where they're going to be feeding. In northern Maine, the best place to put your trail camera is a signpost. Do you guys have signposts in Pennsylvania? What kind of trees are they on, and where are they likely to be found?
Yep. Yeah, we definitely have signposts. I'd say a lot of our signposts are on like dogwood trees, but there's different trees too. Sometimes they're on hemlock or pine. We put more cameras on scrapes than anything else. I do put cameras on signposts as well, but I have a lot more luck on scrapes. In fact, like there's certain scrapes in certain areas, maybe similar to signposts, where literally every deer in that area is coming to that scrape, at some point in time. Not saying like every day or every week, but you can really, if anything, get good intel and inventory on those scrapes. And they're getting used year round. There might be times a year when they're used more than others, But this putting the cameras on the scrapes has really been a big key for me. That's probably where 80% of the cameras are located. But like I said, even though I sound like I'm a big trail cam nut, they don't play a vital role always in my decision making. And I'm also still learning how to use them too. There's so much to use in trail cameras. Like we could spend this whole podcast talking about trail cameras. There's so much to them than what most people think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's too many hunters use them for a crutch. It's like anything else. I don't call it a gimmick, but you got to understand if you're using them, you're not getting everything that's coming around, because when them bucks come down by there, they don't walk in the same track every time. They're more like coming down through a corridor there. And I think half the time, I've used them for deer a little bit. I don't use them a lot. I got a handful, but I do it for fun. But I've put them on bear baits, and we put them out for moose a little bit. But you got to understand, you're not getting. It's a lot of times I think you'll make the wrong decision from what you see on your camera. You're not making the right one. You're making the wrong one, because if you're just relying on everything you see on the camera, it could cost you big time,
Yep.
I had one.
You're totally right. In fact, like I always say, most of the time you're a step behind. If you're just going by that one picture, and like the buck I got here this past year in gun season, I was getting pictures of the deer in an area like a half mile from where I shot him. But it was different factors. We finally had a snowstorm. The buck was mainly living in a clear cut, and it had no evergreen, no thermal cover. And I just knew where these deer shift, despite, not having any trail camera intel. I had a lot of cameras in the area, but I knew based on the weather situations, it was likely that buck was going to shift into this other area. And I think that's the key. Like, we're always just I don't want to say we, but a lot of hunters are just waiting for that picture, or, constantly relying on everything that camera is telling them. And, you're always 9 out of 10 times you're behind that deer versus getting ahead of where he's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. How your deer around there, like your bucks, do they travel a long ways? I mean, it sounds like if there's 15 to 20 deer a square mile, they don't have to travel as far to find enough does to keep them busy.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I've seen bucks go 6, 7, 8 miles before. I also see some where, depending on the time of year, like some will have massive shifts from season to season. A lot of that, like a winter to spring shift, or a summer to fall shift. Some of them are all unique individuals too. Like some of them are homebodies, and they stay in one area year round, and then some of them seem to be very nomadic and unpredictable. But overall, most of them do have somewhat of maybe I could say smaller home range. I would say on average, a lot of them are within 1 to 2 square mile area. And even during the rut, a lot of them stay that way. Although the tail end of the rut, I tend to see where bucks start to range a lot when they know most of the does, and especially in their area, have been bred. They'll kind of get that last urge to make an excursion, maybe even to a place they've never been before, just trying to find, one more hot doe. I see that quite a bit. But overall, yeah, I don't know what's a massive range and what's not, but probably 1 to 2 square miles on average is what a lot of these, even the bigger bucks, that's what a lot of them are living in.
Yeah, that would be, for us up here, that would be a small area, really.
Wow, that's pretty neat. But that's probably especially because you have less does, so those bucks have to cover a lot of ground in that.
Yeah, and then here the areas, like I said, there's areas that have a lot more deer than other areas. There's some areas here they just don't hold a lot of deer. Never have. There's some that's just never held a lot of deer.
I believe it, though. It all makes sense. It's amazing how they adjust to, they almost know their area and what they have to do. It's like just how amazing how Mother Nature plays a part in the whitetail world.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, for a buck, I mean, he can walk 10 miles in the night, no problem. I mean, we think that's a long way, but for them, it's nothing really.
Especially if he's got hell blood tracking him all day.
Yeah.
So how many hunters a week are you guiding now?
Usually like 6 to 8.
Yep.
And it depends. There's kind of like a peak period. The early part of guiding, a little less than that, and the latter part, a little less. But usually we'll have 6 to 8 hunters in camp. That's what makes it tough for like the one-on-one stuff. A lot of people even somewhat, I would say, judge me saying, that's not guiding, but like once or, on an individual level. So that's why I've just come up with the today's age and all the technology. That's why I do it mainly, through through a lot of GPS stuff. I don't trust enough people per se with the knowledge I have, the area, all the time I've put into it. Like, I don't want to hire guides because I'm too afraid it will backfire on me. This area is just too precious to me and all that I've worked for, that like I'd rather do it the way I'm doing it. And especially in the archery stuff, I mean, I can see guns a little bit different, especially if you're a tracker like some of you guys, but why do I really need to be sitting with a guy in a tree stand? I mean, do I really help him a whole lot? I might be hurting him more than anything. That's more likely chance of more scent, another hunter in the tree, more movement. So if we're mainly focused on archery, I think giving these people waypoints might be better off anyways.
Does your archery hunt fall during the rut?
Yes, all the archery is just in the rut. I mean, our archery season is a lot longer than that, but I only focus on rut archery. I'll be honest with you too, because I'm doing, most of the cooking and pretty much everything. I don't think I could do the guiding any longer than what I'm doing. It's just, maybe I sound like a wimp, but I mean, it's a lot of work to keep the camp clean, the dishes every night, dragging. The one day this year, I dragged 3 deer out. I cooked dinner. I remember I even had to run some errands. Like, it was just insane. It's just so much work behind it. I only do it 4.5 weeks out of the year, but I also do like, similar to Hal, I do scouting classes. Doesn't matter what time of the year, there's some type of, there's somewhere in the hunting field that I'm doing something for hunting and other hunters. And that's just basically I never really planned on, things like that happening, but, being a guide, and once you start sharing your knowledge and creating relationships and getting on social media, people start reaching out to you for all kinds of different things. And, it's been really great as far as how this whole thing has expanded into a variety of different things. I meet so many great people and get to be on these kind of podcasts. So I'm just very fortunate how it's all turned out.
Yeah, it's you talked about cooking and doing it all, and all three of us have, as most guides have been there. And to a lot of people, it probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a lot of work, when you're doing all of it. So I got a lot of respect for you if you're doing that for 4.5 weeks and all the cooking.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a big job.
I tell people the worst ones for us here in Maine.
Yeah, exactly. And it, like I said, I'm certainly not complaining. There's never a time really, except maybe towards the tail end of like a 2-week stretch, where I start to get a little burnout. But like, give me 3 or 4 days off, and then I start to miss it again. So I definitely know that, just like you guys, like, it's in my blood. I get just as excited for another hunter. In fact, maybe even more now than what I used to. Like, I'm more into having other people have success and the whole guiding part than even hunting for myself. There's just something special about guiding and just putting a smile on someone's face. It's a pretty special moment.
I started to say, I think the toughest one for us, I'm glad that moose season's only 3 weeks because we do all our moose hunts out of remote tent camps. You get up at 4 every morning and you guide all day and you're cooking for them. But sometimes, like if they don't get their moose until just before dark and you're packing it out till 10 or 11 at night, yeah, moose season, by the end of the 3 weeks, I'm glad it's over. I'm beat.
Well, there's 11 hours of shooting light in moose season. It's a long day anyway.
Yeah.
You married?
That's the thing. I think there's been a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to be a guide. And then when they truly realize the energy and the passion you have to do something like this, I think it turns into, okay, this is a little more than what I expected. And just like I said before, if you don't have a true passion behind it, it's definitely not going to be for you.
Oh, that's right. Are you married, Steve?
Yes, I am.
You can't get your honey to come down and do a little cooking?
Well, she.
I'm glad Hal
she
took
works
that
a
one.
full-time job, and actually,
Don't let her watch
I'm
this,
the
Steve.
home cook anyways. I like to cook, so I kind of enjoy it. I just do real quick things where I can just put in like a crock pot or a roaster. I'm not doing like steaks or anything too fancy. It might be like rigatonis and meatballs or just stuff real simple. But I enjoy the cooking part too because I'm always a little bit creative, and that's just another way to like put a smile on a hunter's face after he's hunted his butt off all day and like, oh wow, Steve, this is really good. How'd you make this? So I'm passionate about that. But there's been a few times where I've had to have my wife help me out because if somebody hits a buck or I'm dragging one or there's different reasons where she has to chip in. But I certainly don't mind doing the cooking either.
I mean, besides, she's busy doing laundry too, right, Hal?
And cleaning the house.
Yeah, and my, we have a child, my son, he's in all kinds of sports. She's the one after work taking care of him, bringing him to his sporting events, especially his practices. A lot of times I can't make the practices. I do my best to make all the games, but she's got a lot on her plate anyways. And I will say in my household, that guiding season, it's a tough time of year on the family because there's really it's not always a set schedule. I might say, yeah, there's a good chance, I'll be home tonight by 7 or 8, but that's always up in the air depending on if I got to go help someone with a deer or different things come up. We've had guys, unfortunately, I've had a few guys get lost over the years. With the guiding, it's one thing. It's not like that 9-to-5 job or it's monotonous and you do the same thing every day. Just because you're guiding, every day is a new story and an event or a event that you have no clue what you're going to get handed to you each day.
You got that right.
Yeah, it's you really to be successful at it, I believe you've got to be as good a people person as you are in the outdoors because they go hand in hand, and really it's when you boil it down, that's why you do it too. It's the relationships and meeting new people. And I mean, as I'm sure doing a number of years that you make lifelong friends out of it, all the time. And so the hunting part's great, but the friendships that go along with it are just as important.
That's absolutely true. One quick question I'll ask you guys. This is something that I've found, and I hear other outfitters and guides saying the opposite, but for some reason, like I'd say 50 to 60% of the time when a client kills a big deer here, they never come back. And I feel like it's been like more of like a bucket list thing. Like you would think that when someone kills a big buck, like bam, they get the checkbook out right now and they're like, I want to come back next year. Do you guys see some of that too? Like they got what they wanted and you never see that person again?
I think it's more they keep coming back because they haven't killed a deer and they want to
Exactly.
They want that challenge because it is challenging enough. I mean, it's not like there's big bucks falling every day, so
Yep.
I think it's more just trying to get over the hump and actually kill a deer tracking, or kill a deer anyway up here in the North Woods.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. I was just curious what you guys thought of that. That happens more times than not here.
Yeah, I don't know how many times it happens. I mean, because I think a lot of the guys sometimes it's maybe a dream trip for them. They're going to do it once anyways. They know that going into it. And maybe they get lucky and kill one. But I would say here, what do we have? Probably half the guys now come back.
Yeah, I at least that I would think.
Yeah, we probably have at least half the guys come back every year, but I think a lot of it is, like I've always said, is people either love this hunting up our way or they hate it. We're going to have guys that they show up and it ain't their thing. They do it for a week, and whether they kill something or not, it just ain't their thing. And they don't come back, and that's fine. There's always other people that want to. But so, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I never really thought about it that the guys that shoot a big one, they never come back, because I've had it both ways over the years. They get a big one and they come back, but some people have got a big one and they didn't come back. So they're human beings. You can't figure them out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's I kind of agree with you, Steve, where you would think it would fuel the fire more, if you were successful and you kind of feel like you're figuring it out, but I thought it was more than half. I was thinking it is surprising every year how many people are gluttons for punishment, and
that's what I tell everybody is our brand of hunting, our style of hunting up here. It's like extreme hunting. It's like those Winter X Games you see on TV. It's only the hardcore guys. Some guys, they see it and it kind of whets their appetite. But once they've done it for a week, they're like, yeah, I'm not coming back for that. It's too much. If they go a whole week and they only see 2 deer, that doesn't keep their interest. But then the other guys, like Joe said, they're going to come back because they want to do it.
I'll tell you guys a quick story. One time, I'm sure you guys had similar experiences, but I had a guy come for a week. And I mean, it was in the archery rut, but it was like the later October period, and it was like 70, 80 degrees. The guy never saw a deer. I mean, and that's very uncommon for that. No one hardly comes for a week and not sees a deer. So I'm thinking I'll never see that guy again. He rebooked in 2 weeks. He wanted to catch the tail end of the archery season. He sits for 20 minutes on that second time he came back and kills the biggest buck of his life. So like, you can never read people. You would think like, this guy is never coming back. You gave him a horrible experience, even though you guys know as well as me, you have no control over hunting. I don't care how good of a guide, how good of a hunter you are. Sometimes the deer gods or whatever we want to call them are against us, or, things just don't always work out. But like those a lot of times are the people that come right back. They're like, no, I'm not giving up. They had their mind set on having success and, really getting the true experience. And it's just amazing how you wouldn't think it would be the case, but it is.
He was a hunter.
Yeah, well, I think those guys, he probably understood, he probably knew enough to see there was deer around, and he just wasn't lucky that year. But the ones that don't give up and they come back, most likely they'll be successful eventually. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I totally see that. It's basically it's really on who the hunter is. Do they really adapt and understand the big woods environment? Do they have a passion for it? And I also feel like you have to have almost like a spiritual connection to it also. Like there's a certain connection that, you have to have in the big woods, and almost like being one with this type of environment. And if you don't feel that connection, I feel like you feel like, you don't fit in, or it's just something doesn't feel right within you. And it doesn't seem to work for those kind of people.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, it's like they want to go deer hunting maybe, but they're not really looking at it as they want to go deer hunting to kill a deer, or they want to kill a big buck or whatever it is. And that's what their main focus on. They're not focused on the hunt, because the hunt's really what it's about. And too many people focus on just killing something instead of enjoying the hunt and trying to learn all about what's going on and get better at it. Their motive is really, like you said, I think you said that, a lot of people call it, it's a bucket list. You know, they want to kill a big buck in this place or that place or whatever it is. And once they do, maybe that's the end of it for them. But they're not, those people aren't into the hunt. They're into going hunting and killing something, you know?
Yep. And, you know, to each his own, but man, if you can find great joy out of all the different aspects of hunting besides just the kill, I mean, I think that's when you're maybe more of a true hunter, and I think you're going to enjoy hunting more times than not with that type of mindset.
Yeah, for me, some of my best days in the woods, I never saw a deer and never killed a deer, but it was, for some reason, it was just one of the best days, you know, whatever went on, you know.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Well, you guys got anything else for Steve?
Yeah, I just want to say, really appreciate you joining us today. And I know we attempted to meet up in person and it almost happened, but it's thanks for taking the time. And I know we had talked about coming down that way. I'm going to make a point of it. We're going to hook up one way or another and get you up here and we'll make it down there.
If I come down, Steve, Joe's driving.
No problem.
That's okay.
I'm going to be the
I don't
passenger.
care who drives as long as you get here safely. But yeah, let's definitely at least think about it, because we got some time here, and if we can make it happen this season or whatever, definitely reach out to me, and just be nice to just get to know you guys a little bit better and just introduce you to what we have going on here. I guarantee you won't need more than maybe a finger pointing you in the right direction, but I'd at least be glad to do that, and I'm sure you guys will have a great time.
Yeah, how long does your season go?
Gun season's only 2 weeks, so you're talking the Saturday. It opens the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and then you get 2 more Saturdays after that, and then it ends.
Well, I won't be driving for Hal because I'd be interested in going for the archery hunt.
Oh,
that's what sounds appealing to me, hunting those woods with a bow.
Yeah, and honestly, if you like archery, I think the archery hunt is more action packed because we're more in the heat of the rut. The gun hunts are more post rut. You'll see some rutting activity, but not like what you sometimes see in late October, early November. So yeah, that's what most people are drawn into. Yeah, I'm sure you'd have a great time.
all I need to see is a track.
And I can promise you that. And another thing I'll tell you, you'd be amazed is I don't think you'll have to drive if you even want to drive all the back roads. I'd be surprised if you drove more than a half hour without finding a good track. It'd probably be less than that. I think you'd get on them pretty quick here.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yep. Well, okay then. Great having you on. If anybody wants to look you up at Sherk's Guide Service, feel free to do it. And I don't know, maybe you don't have any more room for people.
Archery, I'm getting a little bit full. I think I'm like 70% booked in archery. Gun, I'm fully booked the first week, but I have quite a few spots the second week in gun. But honestly, like if you guys ever wanted to come even the first week of gun, like we could work something out. I know people with cabins and Airbnbs. Like I'm not trying to like specifically guide you guys or anything like that. For sure, I'll put you in the right direction. But it'd be a pleasure to meet you in person and to share some of this area with you for once, and just to give you a true experience of the Pennsylvania big woods.
Yeah, sounds good. So we'll see what we can do. You got to keep an eye on keep us posted on the snow. That's all. Except Joe.
Absolutely.
Except Joe. He's a tree
It's all
stand
about
hunter.
the date. Yeah. It's tree stand hunter. And I love it all.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Good having you on.
Thanks a lot, guys. You guys take care. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Right. Well, all right. This good having Steve on there, but this is the question of the podcast here. And this question is submitted by a guy right here in Maine. Josh Libby. Question for the podcast. I know when you jump a buck, you always say wait 30 minutes before starting back on the track again. Can you provide more details on what you do right after you notice the buck has jumped? Do you approach the buck's bed? Do you find it safer to stay put and not approach the bed from where you jumped him? Do you try calling during the 30-minute waiting period? Any tips would be much appreciated. Okay. Good question, Josh. And I think probably some of us do different things. I probably do different things each time depending on the situation. So, but I've done that. I've called, sitting there calling, you might as well do something. You're eating your sandwich, you can ground a bleed or something. But I always, the part about looking at the bed, I always go look at the bed because, I mean, usually you're going to see the bed because that's when you see that you've jumped them. You see the running track out of it. But I always look at the bed, and again, it's, you might not always see it because you might have seen the buck go or whatever. But I go look at the bed because sometimes you'll see a deer go and you assume it's the one you're on, and it might not be. So I always go look at the bed. I just want to see, okay, yep. And then I know for sure, yeah, that was him.
Because a lot of time it's a buck checking beds.
Yeah.
So he's going to walk up to it and walk away.
Yeah. So yes, that's what I do. I go look at the bed, and sometimes I sit right beside it or whatever, because the odds of them coming back right there or smelling you or whatever is, usually they don't do that. They go off somewhere and wait and see what's going to happen. But I've tried grunting before and calling. I've quite frankly, I've had it kind of working where they didn't come back, but it kept them right there. Several times I've sat there and ate my sandwich and grunted or bleated or whatever I did, got up after a half an hour and started easing ahead on the track, and they were standing there 50, 75 yards from me, and I see them take off again. So, but usually I've never had it where they come marching right back in. I've had other people say they grunted and they did come back in or whatever it is, but I'd say try something, right? You might as well. You're going to sit there. Wouldn't be hurt to try calling.
I had a doe this year that actually came marching back to the grunt.
Yeah.
And it was I wasn't sure when I jumped it if it was a buck or a doe, so I grunted, and I caught movement coming back down, and geez, I got ready. I thought, well, if it's coming right back to it, it's got to be a buck, and it was a big doe. Yeah. And I mean, she came back, and then when she stopped and still couldn't see me, I grunted again, and she just kept coming closer. So you never know with them. I mean,
yeah. There's nothing that works all the time, but there's something that works some of the times, right? It's just, you got to try different things, and
every situation's different, but
yeah.
I always tell people, because for some reason, calling's not as big a deal in Maine as it is like southern states, like in Texas, everybody rattles in Texas. And then if you go out to Ohio, everybody's got a grunt tube and they're grunting their bucks in the grunt tube. But it works in Maine. It's just that people get discouraged with it because our deer density is so low and it doesn't happen all the time, so they get discouraged. But I always tell people, if you've jumped a buck up out of its bed, maybe he smelled you, Maybe he saw you. You don't know. But a grunt tube, it definitely ain't going to hurt you. It can only help you. It's not going to hurt you. So I always try to give it I always give it a go.
Yeah, one thing I do when if I know I jumped them, because quite often when you're tracking them, you just come to the bed and the track's running. You didn't see them, you didn't hear them, or whatever. But if I see them go or hear them go, I'll snort first. I grab my deer call out and I'll make that one long snort, and then to me that just tells them, oh, it's another deer, and they're more likely. And again, a big one's not likely to come marching back because he heard that, but I think it settles them down, and they're more likely to walk off and wait a little bit and then just forget about you. You know.
I'm trying to think. Years ago, when you shot Junior with your muzzleloader, did you jump the original buck and then grunted Junior back, or how did that work?
No, that wasn't. No, that was a windy day. We couldn't hear nothing that day. It hadn't jumped him yet. That's why I thought it was the buck I was on, because we hadn't seen. Chris was with me filming. We hadn't seen another deer track in the woods, and we'd been a couple of miles, and not even a deer track. It was crusty. It was late muzzleloader season, and it was crusty, and I think some of the deer just moved out, headed towards the yards. It was probably 6-8 inches of snow with a good crust on it. So I didn't think there was another deer around, and then when I saw that one coming back through the cut, my mind was, well, there he is. He's turned around and coming back, because they like to walk in tracks, but it ended up being the other one. But no, I haven't. That wasn't how that one worked. But I've grunted them back or pleaded and stuff and had them come back before, but not usually, like I said, right where you jump them. There's something to do with the spot you jumped them from. I think they're nervous about that one little spot. Once they get out away from it, I think they're more likely to swing around or do something. But hey, it doesn't hurt to do it. Anytime you're calling and sounding like another deer, it ain't hurting you.
I've told the story before. I did that. Jumped him out of his bed, grunted, and took a knee and just sat there. And I had a blow down next to me, and the buck did come right back. You know, it took a few minutes, but he came right back and ended up busting me when he came in. I couldn't see him through the blowdowns, but I like to go after that and see exactly what they did after. And I mean, it almost looked as though he ran off and he stopped. When I grunted, he stopped instantly. He stood there for a few minutes and then came marching right back in.
Yeah. Shows you they're all individuals, but that one that you and Jonah dragged out, my SOS buck, I didn't jump him out of his bed. He was feeding, you know. I had jumped him out, and then he'd gone up over the ridge, and I caught up to him again feeding. But I did bleat that one back. It took quite a while for me to get the shot at him.
Bleated or grunted?
I bleated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had jumped in, and I thought probably the only reason I spent so much time was because I thought he stopped. I saw him jump into the furs. It was thick furs. And I thought the last jump I saw, it seemed like he stopped, and I just couldn't see him. So I started bleating. And I'd bleat, and I'd wait a minute or two, and I'd bleat again, and then all of a sudden, it'd probably been, I don't know, 5 minutes at least, but I saw a tail flick in there. Well, kind of ironically, what he did was he'd run out. He never did stop when I thought, but luckily, I thought he did, was because that's what gave me the patience to stay, and he'd run across the next skid trail and went down. He probably went out 40 yards maybe, went down a skid trail, walked back into the next skid trail and back up. And he was standing right where he'd run out across. He was standing right in those tracks where he crossed that skid trail. And I finally got where I could get a look at his neck. I could see his white patch on his throat, and I shot him, but I bleated that one back. So, yeah, do something. Not going to hurt you. Anytime you're talking like another deer, it's not going to go against you. The only thing is you got to just remember they got you pinpointed, so your movement and all of that stuff you got to be careful of, and your scent, see if they're trying to get down around you somehow, if they can.
That's a good point, because I actually learned this from moose hunting more than deer hunting, but it is unbelievable how moose and deer, if you make a grunt, whether it's a bull grunt or a buck grunt, they know exactly where that is. I mean, right down to, we've called moose in from hundreds and hundreds of yards away, and they'll come right to the exact spot. It's crazy.
Echolocation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's their
Yeah, so you just got to be you got to be mindful of, once you make that noise, they know where you are. Yeah, don't be fooling around. Sometimes it's too easy to think, well, there's nothing around, or you ain't going to come or anything, and you get fiddle-fighting around. I had to teach that to Ryland, because he's, kids do that anyways. They get distracted or whatever. I say, don't move, just be still. I said, because they ain't going to, usually they don't come marching right back in. They're going to sneak, and they're going to be looking, peeking and looking, and because they're trying to see movement. They want to see if what they heard is really what they end up seeing,
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, good question. So anyways, once again, thanks for tuning in.
Should be getting close to, I'm not sure the exact date on this one, but we must be closing in on the spring thaw, so.
Yeah, spring thaw.
Looking forward to that.
It's going to be a good time, and then the main sportsman show shortly after that. And I guess we're going to go do to the 2 hunt stalks this summer in Mass, and then the new one out in, I think it's around Utica, New York, somewhere like that. But so anyways, don't forget to support our sponsors, and hope you enjoy the rest of the winter. It's been an easy one here. We're trying to get out enough and kill a few coyotes. We've got some, but the conditions haven't been always that great. Deer are having a good time here. I think last year we talked about how easy the winter is. I think this one's a lot easier. I mean, it's kind of crazy, really. The deer haven't really yarded up too much. They're still spread out. There's not enough snow where they have to walk in trails, and it's good for them. So
Going to be another good year.
Oh yeah.
At this point, they put on, even those old bucks that ran themselves ragged are in good shape again by now.
Yeah, because they don't move around a lot anyways. They just walk around and feed, and they don't travel anywhere really. And I still got deer behind my house. So anyway, until next time, good luck on the trail.
Hi everyone, team member Mark Sheeran here. Are you or someone you know struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, but you don't want to go to rehab or 12-step meetings? Well, that's exactly why we created our non-12-step Freedom Model Coaching Program. In our program, you can be coached by me and Michelle Dunbar through our in-house 2-day addiction solution workshop, or if you want to stay home, you can be coached through video conferencing on Zoom. Both options are powerful and proven effective. We've personally coached more than 27,000 people over the last 34 years. With the Freedom Model, you won't have any record of being treated for an addiction either. This is a huge benefit for those with professional licenses, or who are high profile, or simply who have a lot to lose with such a damaging label. If you're ready to change your life and solve your addiction for good, call me directly at 888-424-2626 and set up your free 30-minute coaching session today. I look forward to helping you. And here's that number again, 888-424-2626. Take care.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.